Good afternoon, viewers, and welcome to new channel. Yes, WSHJ 434. And on this channel, we're going to be talking about two-way radios. Yes, a lot of different types of two-way radios. Good for communication, of course. It's always good to have a two-way radio. I know the question today is, should you have a two-way radio? Well, the answer is yes. But why is that? Well, because a two-way radio can be useful in many situations, whether it's communicating with family during a peaceful hike or communicating with a team during a zombie apocalypse. Two-way radio can be useful in either situation and in many others too. You know, um, I have a variety of different two-way radios sitting around that I use on a regular basis. Most of the time, it's just for listening to stuff, listening to different things. Recently, we had a power outage, and of course, two-way radio comes in handy there because uh, I was able to listen to some local FM radio. Of course, during a storm, you may want to use it to listen to the weather, which I do that too. I like to listen to the weather. So that's one of those things. You got the weather stations, all that good stuff. But you also can use this to communicate with other people. Now, depending on what license you have, really determines what kind of radio you get, what kind of setup you can have. And most people would go for just your general bubble pack radios, your simple radios from somewhere like, say, Walmart or another big box store. And that's fine and well. They're simple radios, they're easy to use. However, um, they're very limited on the power output and the range. Now, but they don't require a license. So, and in a pinch, if you're just in your neighborhood, you want maybe the weather, or maybe you just want to be able to communicate with your neighbors or your children who are outside. A bubble pack radio might work just fine. But you may want to step up your game a little. You might want to. Now, of course, there's a variety of different types of radios out there you can get, and of course, different license services you can look through. If you want a longer range where you can talk to people, but you don't want to, um, pay for a license, then you might want to look at MERS. But MERS is limited only to 5 channels. On the other hand, if you want to pay for a license, you can get a license really easily. I know a lot of people talk about how hard it is to navigate the FCC site, but it's really not. You can get a GMRS license for $35. It's good for 10 years. And that will open up more channels on the FRS. It's the same frequencies as FRS, same channels. But you also have the repeater channels, and you can then get into repeaters and use that. Usually there's going to be an open repeater somewhere near you, hopefully. That's one of the things with GMRS you can look at. And of course, then you could always go into going for ham radio and all of that, which ham radio is great and everything, especially if you want long range communication. But all in all, most people are not going to need long range communication. You need short range communication, but you need a little power behind it. And of course, that's why I would say you go to GMRS. But we'll talk a little about radios, different types of radios, or different radios that I have sitting around here, and some other things today. Also, we'll be doing radio. I'll be doing radio reviews, and we'll do them live. I'll tell you why I do things live. I don't like to sit and try to record things ahead of time, so I'd rather just do it live, and people can go back and watch replay. But that being said, now I have quite a few radios laying around here, and of course we'll talk about them on different streams, ups and downs. what I like about them, what I don't like about them, when they're useful, when they're not. Um, you know, and we'll be doing some reviews on different radios uh, as we go, and hopefully we're going to be doing a stream. Every couple of days on this channel. That's my plan right now. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the plan in the future. It just means it's the plan for right now. All right. That is the plan as it stands. Now, of course, if you have questions about two-way radios, all of that, put it in the chat box. Now, whenever you look to purchase a two-way radio, you need to look at the features, what it has, and what it doesn't have. For instance, yesterday I was looking for a good GMRS radio for my wife to carry with her. And I did settle on one, and we'll be doing a review on it later probably on the weekend or into next week once I have it, and then we'll talk about which one it is. But one of the problems I ran across was this cheap 2-pack of radios. I thought, hey, you know what? 2 packs, $28 sounds like a good deal. And I might get them later on. But the problem with them is they only operate on narrow band. You can't put them in a wide band. So that's going to limit your effectiveness with the radio. So I ruled them out for now. But for her, I have to have a radio that is waterproof and well made. That way, she doesn't break it. I mean, I gave her a flashlight once, and she dropped it in some water, and I had to get her a new one. So you gotta look at what you need the radio for, what functions you need in it. That's one of those things. I always look at what radio do I really think would be interesting to look at. Now, I buy radios just to look at, to play with. That's one of my things. And I listen to them, but I leave them just sitting on the desk a lot, or they're on a shelf out of the way. There are ones that I turn on when there's a storm, when I might want to carry with me if it's storming because it's waterproof. If you're going to be out in the weather, you want a cheaper radio. You really do. That way, if it does get damaged, you're not out a lot of money. Now, radios, of course, you can get started with radio fairly cheap. There's some cheap GMRS radios out there. And they do have scanning features to other frequencies and stuff. Of course, you need to operate within the regulations. Let's say it that way. The regulations. They're not actually laws. They are regulations that prevent you from doing this or that. But you do need to operate within them. Let's just put that out there so that everybody knows that you need to operate within them. Okay. So continuing on with things. And there's radios you want to stay away from too. And I've learned that through trial and error. Now, personally, I like a heavier radio, something that feels firm in the hand. Take, for instance, the classic UV5R. Everybody has one. If you don't, you know what I'm talking about anyway. They're very lightweight. Now, I expanded, put a bigger battery on mine, so it'd be a little bit heavier and bigger. But they're small, they're lightweight. And that's why there's a lot of radios I've stayed away from, because they look just so small. And a lot of times, I won't buy a radio if it looks small. And maybe that's a mistake on my part, but I have a preference to what types of radios I like. Okay. But you want to stay away from radios that are a problem. And I'll give a full review on a lot of these radios periodically. We're going to just take time to do a stream and talk about one radio in particular. But today's kind of just an overview. It's the first stream on the new channel. So, for instance, radios I would stay away from if I were buying radios again. And this is the Baofeng H6, the BFH6. It's a really good sized radio, and it's firm in the hand. Got a good weight to it. The problem is, in order to really hear anything, you've got to turn it all the way up. This is a problem with the speaker. Also, it's not chirp compatible, or at least it wasn't when I bought it. And I had a lot of trouble getting the CPS software to program it. Once it's programmed, it's fine to use. But it just, you have to have it turned up all the way. That's one of the big problems with it. I mean, It's a good little radio, but would I buy one again? No, I wouldn't buy this radio again. That's my recommendation on it because it was just so much of a problem to program and then the speaker issue on top of it. Now, once you get, now there's a lot of radios I definitely really do like. And there's some that I learn new things about all the time when I'm messing with them. We'll talk about all those. I've become a real fan of Radtel radios. Now, the Radtels, there's always firmware updates for and stuff, unlike with Baofeng. There are firmware updates. And I like those. I like the updates and like being able to update and reprogram when I need to. Okay. So, like I said, there's a lot of different radios you can use. Now, one of the things that you have to remember when you buy a radio, it's not just, you got to know how to use it. You got to take the time to program it, learn how to use it. Unless you're buying a bubble pack radio, there's going to be a learning curve. And there should be. Anything worth doing is worth learning about. Now, even I still learn things every single day. The other day, I was messing with my Radtel 730. And it's a nice radio. I enjoy listening to it and everything, but yeah, I needed to know how to put in tones. And I went in the menu like you would normally, but it kept telling me, cancel or confirm. It kept kicking me out of the menu every time I would hit the menu button to select. And I thought, okay, well, maybe I did something. Maybe the firmware's bad. So I re-updated the firmware and everything. But that wasn't it. And what I should have done, of course, was consult the manual first. That's why I'm saying this. You got to consult that manual because there's actually a sub menu under that, and you have to hit the star to get to it. Hit the star key, you can switch to the right settings that you need. But I was not aware of that at the time. I learned something, and every day you should learn new things anyway. So we have some variety of different radios, like I said here. Radios I really enjoy, radios that I don't really use. I keep a two-way radio in the bedroom. I don't use it very often, but I have one in there. I have several on my emergency shelf that have just sit there. Waterproof radios are over there, and of course I have UV5R over there, and UV82. Now the 82 is a radio I do like because it has the dual PTT, and I really like dual PTT. I know a lot of people are like, well, I don't like the dual watch. I don't want to have all that, all those problems of trying to switch the channel or being on the wrong channel or whatever. And that can happen. But that's why I like the dual PTT. Then you don't have to worry about switching when you go to talk. You just push, button 1 or button 2. And it works out real well. Now, take, for instance, the RT 470. It is a great Radtel radio. And we'll go into depth on this on another stream. But you can actually program it to have dual PTT. I chose not to do that. I decided that button should be for a different function. But you can do that. That's one of the advantages to that radio. You can program it differently. Also, a lot of radios, you'll find that they have their own setting for the weather. By pushing or holding down a button, you can program it in. Of course, radio and FM radio. Now, I like ones that have an independent setting for the weather radio, meaning that you can push a button and it goes straight to a weather radio. That way, you don't have to program the frequencies in. Take, for instance, on the UV5R and the 82 and stuff, you need to program in the weather frequencies in order to hear them. Which I don't complain about that too much because I already have them programmed in. But on radios that I don't need them in, when I copy over the basic programming, I'm having to change over and take out stuff. It's not a big deal on Chirp to do that, but it's time consuming. And it can be rather time consuming to put everything in. And put in the frequencies that you're going to use. That's another thing. Depending on what type of radio and service you have, you definitely want to program it generally online. But there's a lot of radios now you can do it with an app. I'm just not a big fan of phone apps and all that. But with radio, with respect to that, you want to program your radio. However you do it, you want to program it. Have in there the frequencies that you need to talk on. Now with GMRS, you're going to be locked down to the channels to the basic 30 channels. Now there are memory slots for other repeater channels and stuff that you can put in, and then that's always a good deal to do too. And they will allow you to listen on frequencies that are not transmittable. So if you want to listen into something else, you can. Um, Now ham radios, you can do a lot more with. Unlocked radios, you can do even more with. However, you're not. It's not within the regulations to use those on GMRS frequencies. Many people do, but it's not within the regulations. Let's just be clear on that. Now, now of course, I mess around with radios a lot, mostly just sitting here at the desk messing around with them. But as I come up with something new, there's always information to share. And we're coming up into spring, and that means storm season and everything, and we're going to be talking about the radios and storm preparedness and everything along with it. And I want all that to be on one central place that we can have that information. Now, of course, like I said, storm season is coming up. You want to be prepared for whatever comes up. Now, of course, I've got 2 new radios coming in before long that I'm going to be doing reviews on, along with reviewing some of the other radios I already have. And we'll be talking about the pros, cons of all of them. Then we'll go from there. But I look at radios a lot. I'm on the internet. I'm looking at them, I'm looking at new radios and everything else that I might want to look at getting, or I might want to put on a list for later on. And some radios out there are not radios that I will use. And I've thought about buying them, but I've also ruled it out. Take, for instance, the RT860 by Radtel and the new Quansheng TK11. Both of them integrate shortwave radio into them. Now, I think shortwave radio is a great thing to have. I have a large shortwave radio. I would like something, small to carry with me, but I don't want it in a two-way radio. Now, why is that? Well, while it may seem convenient to have a two-way radio that you can communicate or that you can listen into shortwave radio with, if you were in a situation where you needed to be getting messages out, you're still going to be having to carry 2 radios. You may be listening to carry the one because you can do shortwave on it, but you're still going to need one that you can transmit on. Now, of course, I would say always prepare to carry 2 radios, but you don't want to be carrying more stuff than you really need in an emergency situation. If you're going to carry 2 radios, carry a small dedicated shortwave instead of a two-way radio with shortwave. That's my opinion on that. Now, people may have a different opinion, but it doesn't seem like it doesn't seem like it'd be a good mix for me. And I can only tell you what all I would do on these things. Okay. That's just my thought on that. And I have looked at getting a new shortwave radio, something a lot smaller. My problem with it is finding one that is cost effective to get. And I found one the other day, except when you see it in somebody's hand on the screen, it's like really, really small. And I'm sitting there going, I couldn't work the knobs and everything on it, and see the dial or see the dials and everything. It wouldn't work. I need something just a little bit bigger, but not too big. That's my thoughts with the shortwave there. The shortwave's a good radio system to listen to. Now, we didn't talk about CB radio, and that's because people are moving away from CB. And I remember the days of CB because I used to use a CB all the time when I was younger. But like I said, those days have moved past us, so now everybody's using other services, which I don't have a problem with change, but it's also becomes another gimmicky thing too is having radios having your regular two-way radio that listens in on CB. Now, take for instance, I have two Radtel radios. Both of them will listen on the CB frequencies, which is uh, which is HF frequencies down 27 megahertz. But they, I don't ever pick anything up on them. I have listened to, I've had on scan and stuff, but I don't ever pick anything up on them. I have the frequencies programmed there to listen to if something comes across while they're scanning, but nothing ever comes across. So it could be that the sensitivity is not that great, but we've tested they will receive on CB. I mean, we it was tested that they will receive on it, but it doesn't mean that it's really that sensitive to do so. They were tested in close range, whereas it could be it could be useful if you were right by the interstate, I suppose. If you wanted to listen into the truckers that might still be on CB, but most people are gravitating away from that nowadays. I mean, CB still has its place, I think, but it'll always have its place as long as we have semis and everything else, and truckers still driving the roads. But as for the average user, it's kind of even in vehicles, it's gone away. And I like the GMRS setup and everything. And if I were going to be traveling, that's what I would do. But a lot of people, you know, a lot of people don't even carry a radio, which really confounds me at times because I find a radio to be more reliable than a cell phone. And I'm not a fan of phones anyway. Yes, I have a phone. No, I don't like it. It's one of those things. I'm not a big fan of them. But I do always have mine on the desk. But, generally I'd prefer to have my radio because at least with the radio I can communicate where I need to. And I'm looking for the right radio for my wife because I want her to have a radio that she can carry with her when she's at work and in case there's a major problem and she really needs to be able to communicate with someone or get weather information, whatever, she would have that. And that's something that I do have on the way, and I'm going to be working on reviewing it uh, either on the weekend or into the week. All right, but we're going to do a lot of review streams over here, just talking about certain radios, stuff like that. That's my plan. Of course, we'll probably talk a little UV5R because everybody likes to talk about the UV5R. Everybody has them. Of course, there's a lot of upgraded new versions now that I don't have. I have the old version, the classic old unlocked version that I pretty much have used as a scanner off and on for a long time. They've kind of gotten migrated off my desk. When I moved the desk around, I migrated them to another spot, but I still use them for scanning. And that's about it. Um, and that's because the newer radios that I've got, they sit on the desk because that's where I have room for them right now. And that's what we do with them. But yeah, every radio does have its own purpose. And of course, as we get more people watching this channel, we'll be able to talk more in depth about some of these services. Now, of course, there's a lot of things we may not get into talking about too much, but whenever there's a radio, what I'll do, if there's a radio I like, I get it, I'll do it, do a stream about it, talk about it, and see whether or not it's a radio that we like. You know, it's just one of those things. All right. And of course, we're going to be doing the stream on multiple platforms. So eventually, we'll also expand the stream over to another platform too. All right. It's just a matter of getting it all set up. I don't have everything set up on this stream the way I want to yet, but I will have eventually. Although my camera will be small, window will probably be smaller. That way, I can put images on screen and display stuff. Especially when it comes into what radio we're talking about, or maybe information about that radio that's important to have on the screen. We'll have that up. I just don't have it set up yet for that. But that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about just a general thought that I have on this stuff. And we're going to talk also in that context of storm preparedness too on the stream. We'll do a stream about that, what you need to be prepared for what's going to happen, along with your radio. But I do think that it's always important to have the radio to be able to go to communicate with someone if you need, and to know how to use it. Now, let's see what else we have here that I wanted to cover real quick. So we got 2 new radios coming in. We're going to talk about either over the weekend or into next week. Tomorrow we'll probably pick a radio and talk about it. Talk about the ups, the downs, what's good about it, what's not. And of course, one of the things to keep in mind is with these Chinese radios, and most of our radios come out of China, so let's just be honest with it there. But the thing to keep in mind with them is that they're not all FCC compliant, not on the way that they should, the way that you're supposed to be, based upon the setup and stuff. Usually, you can look on the back or inside and find out. But one of the things is always taking the battery off of these. Sometimes can be a pain to do. The 730 is a little bit trickier, so I pulled the 470 to look at. But they'll give you an FCC number on here, and tell you, what bands it's on and everything. But it doesn't. But just because it has that number doesn't necessarily mean that it's compliant with it. With Radtel radios, they're all generally unlocked radios. They're good radios, although I will say that. But they are generally all unlocked radios that you can program in however you want. The 730, although I will say this, the 730 CPS software and manual give you a way to lock down the frequency range or to expand it manually. So you can actually lock it out to certain frequencies if you wanted to. But that's one that's that's a newer radio I've got here that I'm working with, messing around with still. But and if you have recommendations for radios, y'all let me know that in the comments below too, because I want to hear what feedback from the people of what y'all like on the radio and all that. But the real question is, should you have a two-way radio? The real answer is yes. There's no reason not to have a radio on hand that you know how to use, either where you can get to it in an emergency or in a go bag or wherever you need it. And one of the things is that the weather can be unpredictable. And we'll just use weather as a good example here. The weather can be unpredictable. So, take for instance, if there's a storm or something, I want one of my radios to be able to listen to local emergency services. And I usually have that on anyway. But I may have another radio on for the weather because you want to know what's going on. So there's a power outage. You may not have computers. You need to know something. You need to get information. Generally, one good rule of thumb is that to have you now all the radios come with belt clips. Now I will say that every radio has a belt clip. Some radios have belt clips you don't like. For instance, the GT3WP is a waterproof radio by Baofeng. and the belt clip on it is reminds me of an old '90s late '90s, early 2000s cell phone clip where uh, the clip goes on. You can clip it on, but where back in the '90s you'd have those cell phones. You have the clip, you put the clip on your belt, and then you just had that little round knob basically stuck out the back of the phone, and you'd slide it into the clip, and it'd just swivel and swing there all the time. Well, that's the kind of belt clip that they uh, come with. Now, I don't use the belt clips very often on the radios because I don't see the purpose of belt clips. Take the time and get you a good radio case. Because if you get a good little radio case, and this one here is a gauze, is what it says on it. It's a good radio case. Um, it fits almost all of my radios. It will not fit the 82 with the expanded battery. I have a separate case for that. And it won't fit, of course, the 730 because it's such a big radio comparatively. So it does fit, like, say, the H6. So give you a good comparison of size here is the H6 versus the size of the 730. Now, they look pretty similar size-wise. However, they're a lot, the 730 is a lot bigger uh, and thicker in depth and width. So the 730 overall is a bigger radio, and it will not fit in the case. So that one I have the belt clip on. The only one I have the belt clip on and need the belt clip for. The rest of them all fit in a case. And I like having the case because you can have it always on your belt, even if there's not a radio in it, so that in an emergency, you can just grab the radio and stick it in there. That's just a recommendation there that I have on that. Um, Having a radio case is a beneficial thing. And I like to, whenever there's a storm, I definitely have the radio case on my belt. Today it's not, it's over on the desk. But if there was something going on, I could grab it easily and one of the radios off the desk if I needed to, or I could just grab the 730 and at the same time it's got the belt clip. So it's all about being prepared for whatever you need. Boom, it's there. Okay. Hope the audio and everything on the YouTube stream is good. I'm not sure on how that's working right there, um, but hopefully it's good. And I figure we'll have more viewers on YouTube in the coming days because this is the new channel. This is a new channel, new project to be able to talk about radios and preparedness and all that. A lot of different things I'd like to cover on the channel as we go, but most of it will stick around the two-way radio area. But we will branch over to some aspects of being prepared because one of the things about having a radio is just the mark of being prepared, especially in the world we live in. It is very turbulent and tumultuous. There's a lot of other radio types and services we can get into, of course, business radios, that kind of stuff. But it's just an expensive thing to get into. It's just like GMRS is a relatively cheap thing to do, but ham radio can become more expensive depending on what kind of radio you want. People always want to upgrade and go up. I prefer looking at different GMRS radios and stuff like that. But I do look at the ham handhelds, but I like to look at the cheap ones. I don't like to look at the big expensive things because the majority of people are only going to need a radio in an emergency or to communicate in a small group. So you really don't need a $300 or $400 radio for that. If that's what you want, hey, go for it. But you really don't need it. It's one of those things to think about. But you want to be able to find the radio that you need. And, we'll pull up some that we talk about. Let me give you some examples here real quick. Let me check this real fast. I got to check things over here once in a while. fix that in a minute. All right, so let's just look at some two-way radios here that I have looked at, or um, and also what might be on sale today. We'll take a look around on Amazon real quick. Um, Put it in today's deal. By the way, if you want a classic UV5R, they're 1720 right now on Amazon. All right, but let's take a look here on today's deals. See if there's anything good. See if there's anything really that catches my attention here. If you're looking at currently right now, the Baofeng 5 RM, it's a 10-watt ham radio. It's on for 2414 with a 12% off on top of that. If that's interesting to anybody. I'm trying to stick away. I'm not really getting into the FRS radios. They do have some that are on decent prices, but remember, FRS limits your communication, no removable antennas, so not much you can do with that. Looks like today a lot of the stuff on here is FRS. And while I gave you the price on the it comes out cheaper. Never mind. All right. Let me see here what else we have here. The UV26, there's a 2-pack on for $52. All right, let's see here what else we have here. I'm just going down through some of them to see if there's anything really interesting or good on here. A lot of radios, they're the same from one manufacturer to another design-wise. One manufacturer may call it one thing, another will call it another one. I know that Radioddity has one that's just like the Baofeng H6. That's GA10, I think, something like that, and that's a GMRS radio. So you'll have different radios. They're designed and built, and manufactured in bulk. The TDH3 GMRS version is on for $33 right now. Of course, full disclaimer on that: those TID radios, you can switch those between GMRS or unlocked or ham. You can switch them. It's in their menu. There's a menu for that, I believe. The TDH3, I'm not a fan of. I don't have one, but I'm not really a fan because it's so small. It's just one of those that's really small. But hey, if you like small radios, small buttons, then that's the radio for you. Oh, man. Okay. That's really about it on the deals today on Amazon. There's not a lot of deals on there, and I don't have affiliate links on any of these. But um, I have a couple of like I said, I have a couple of radios that are going to be coming in that I will be talking about in the coming days. And we'll get into those. There's not much there. I will mention this, although I did recently look at I have it over here on my thing. I recently looked at the Ksun GMRS UV110D. It's a nice little radio. Size-wise, it's small, although it is a smaller radio. It looks to be a smaller radio. But it's got a 4,000 milliamp hour battery, which is impressive for the size. But it I do not believe it's chirp compatible, and you'd have to get their own software, and you have to wait for them to send it to you. Other than that, it looks like a good radio. I kind of ruled it out for now, and I forget why I ruled it out at the moment. But it is a good little radio. I like the look of it, and we may get it and do a video on it later on. We'll see. I still have it listed here, so I can put it in the list of things I want to look at and review. This channel, is just going to be radio reviews and product reviews of different survival things, and we'll talk survival stuff. We'll also talk a lot of radio stuff because the primary is radio, but we'll branch into the survival, shall we say? There's a lot of little radios I wouldn't mind looking at further, but the Case Sun UV110D, I'm not too sure about that, and I forgot why I took it off the list too, or why I decided against it for right now. I'm sure there's a reason why I did. I just don't remember why. All right. But of course, there were some bad reviews on the battery. That's what that was. There were some bad reviews on the battery. But you don't know what it's going to be like until you get it and test it. And I can't always go on the review. I do look at the reviews that people post, but I like to also, take the time to actually take a look at a radio and see how it's going to work. Because but I'll tell you, I do have a bad habit on the radios. They do get their batteries tested because I tend to leave a radio on and forget about it. So when I go to grab it, it's dead, and I have to get a different one or change the battery. Now, of course, some radios like the H6, one of the selling points for me on the H6 was the fact that it had two batteries with it. So you can charge a battery while you're using one and just switch them out as you go. I like that. I like having an extra battery for things when I can get one. And if an extra battery is what you enjoy, then, you want to look at a radio for that. But radio batteries are not always that expensive. One of the other things is that even though with newer radios, although you don't need the extra battery, because a lot of them are now USB-C charge compatible, so you can just plug in a USB-C cable to it and a battery pack and charge it back up. Now, I've used the charge ports on mine to recharge them off the generator during power outages, and it does work to do that. So there's all kinds of different things you want to look at when you pick a radio, and we'll cover more of those topics in future streams. I just wanted to be on here today to start this channel up and get it going. We'll talk more, like I said, about the different radios you can get, different benefits, pros and cons to both of them, and all of that on another stream. Tomorrow we'll come on for a little while, and we'll probably talk just about one radio, what I like about it, what I don't, and do I find it useful. And what is it useful for? That's the other side of that. Or what do I use it for? So that's one of those things that we'll be talking about tomorrow. All right. But tune into this channel tomorrow and you'll learn more about radio and we'll talk more about it.